All right, so if you're about to do your first land home package and you don't know how to underwrite the deal, this video is for you. I'm going to give you a breakdown of a current project that I'm working on. The home is actually getting delivered this Friday, so I want to go through all of the line items with you and all of my expected budgets so you could use this video as a tool to help you with your underwriting on your future deals. So starting with the first line item, the soil study, this is something that you're going to do before you close on the land. So I will never buy land until I have a confirmed soil study and I know exactly what sort of septic system I could install on the property. I actually write my offers to be contingent on a 3-bedroom conventional system. If I get a drip system or a panel system, I either need to go back and renegotiate or I might actually just walk away from the deal. So your soil study is going to be done beforehand. Your survey, you might not need one of those. I just mark the corners for $700 so I know where my setbacks start. Land clearing, this is going to be site dependent. On this property, we cleared about 3/4 of an acre, and we had some really big trees here. We're talking about white oaks and some really big pines. So this is a little bit more expensive for clearing. We also weren't allowed to burn here. There's a burn ban where we are. So these trees all needed to be hauled off, and that's going to increase the price. Grading was factored into the land clearing price as well. I just had one invoice for that. So you could kind of split that price into two, but land clearing and grading came out to one invoice for me. Footers, $4,200. That's where your foundation is. That's where the home is actually being set on top of. The vapor barrier, that's going to go underneath the crawl space. That was $500. Stucco piers, that's only something you need to do if your piers are going to be over 3 feet. So if you're under 3 feet and it's relatively flat, you don't need to do this. But if you have one side that's maybe 6 foot high because of the topography, you will have to stucco the piers and extra bonding on them. It's going to cost you maybe $2,500 for that. Continuing to go through driveway, this is just a gravel driveway. It's about an 80-foot driveway, 90-foot driveway. 3,000 is probably on the high end for that. Might be a little bit below that. Setup, that is actually the setup and contractor installing the home on our foundation, meeting the delivery driver out at the property. It's going to cost us $6,500, typically about a day and a half to 2 days to do a full setup. The septic, $8,500 is what we're getting quoted out at. That's actually going in this week, so I'll have a hard number on that in the next couple of days. Trim out, we're having the factory do the trim out, so when the home gets delivered, you have a lot of stuff that's shipped loose in the home because you don't want it wobbling around at 80 miles an hour on the highway. So once the home gets delivered, there are certain line items that you have to go in called our trim out. Where the two halves meet, you got to trim out that side. The vinyl siding on the end caps of the home need to be put on after the delivery, and same with the roof ridge caps. So about $3,000 in trim out line items. Now, the well is the thing that we're always most uncertain about. You just don't know your well pricing until you start drilling. We always budget $15,000 for the well, which is roughly 250 feet. I have had wells that go up to closer to 500, and that cost me about $25,000. I've had wells closer to 150 feet, and that's below 10. But I always budget 15. Like I said, this is the most uncertain line item that I have. If I have public water, I'm usually paying about $2,500 for a water tap, but this instance, it's a well. Plumbing, just connecting your plumbing lines, about $3,000. Same with electrical, about $3,000. HVAC, the home does come with an interior unit, but we need to get the matching exterior component. Typically costs me about $7,000 for 2.5 to 3 ton unit. Underpinning, that's going to be the brick skirting that you do after you pass all your utility inspections. Between $8,500 and $10,000 is where brick skirting is coming in lately, just depending on the size of the home. Gutters, pretty straightforward at $1,200. The homes do not come with gutters on them, so we add that at the end. Decks and stairs, we're typically doing maybe 6x6 porches, 4x4 steps. Nothing too crazy here, but for the lumber and labor, usually about $3,000, maybe $4,500 if you're going a little bit bigger. Backfill, final seed and grade, really just the one of the last steps to make sure you have positive drainage away from the house. This is required in order to get certificate of occupancy. Your termite bond, that's something that's required for FHA and VA buyers. So you just work with your local Terminix. They come out and put bait traps up, costs like $600. Nothing too crazy there. Builder risk insurance, I use a company called 21st Insurance. That's going to cover any damages to the home that happen from the time it gets delivered to the time you sell. Now, it's not general liability insurance. It's just damage to the home. So that's your builder risk insurance. Permits, plus or minus $1,500. Clean out, same thing. Sales and use, this is actually something only the dealer pays. So if you're not a dealer, this will be factored into your This will be factored into your purchase price, but as the dealer, I also have to pay that to the state. So if you are working with a dealer, they should tell you exactly what that sales and use tax is, but it's usually all looped into one price. And then the GC fee. Now, going up to the top to our projections, we're expecting a 280 sale price on an 1,800 square foot home. Our home costs 81,000. That's a relatively entry level that's a relatively entry level 1,800 square foot home. Didn't put a ton of upgrades into it. Didn't go drywall or 9-foot ceilings or anything like that. But we're in a really hot market, so I feel really good about that 280 sale price. See our $33,000 land cost, all of our development costs that we just went through, and then I'm factoring in 12% lender fees on a 7-month hold. That's how long I think it's going to take me to get in and out. 2% closing costs give me a projected profit of $47,000, give or take. So those are all the line items that go into my build. If you need a calculator like this, you could actually download it for free in my land home community. It's on School, where I teach everything about land home investing. So if you're interested, feel free to join the community, download these resources. I have tons of free info like this, but check out the bio, join the community, and let's help you get started on your first land home package.